particularly well and minding yourselves out there. Now, just the other day, I was thinking to myself, I wonder where that Miriam O'Callaghan interview went with Anthony Fauci. So I went looking for it and I couldn't find it. And I went to the RTE player and it's been taken down. So it was one of those ones you think, I wonder what prompted me to go looking. And then when I did, the cupboard was bare. And it made me think, do they know something we don't know? Now, Miriam O'Callaghan's shocking Instagram post is still up, where she is fawning all over Anthony Fauci. It's really embarrassing. And then the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland held an evening forum where they gave him a silly medal. And they've got a video up on YouTube. So I took that down, or I downloaded it, or whatever you do with these videos these days. And I put that out there just to show how embarrassing, how the state of affairs in Ireland, that our top media, well, so-called top media, I use the term loosely, are complicit mainstream media, and the Royal College of Physicians. Why is it royal in Ireland? The Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. And there they all are, and it culminated in a standing ovation for Anthony Fauci. How embarrassing. And he got the Stern medal. Anyway, I've put it back out there again for people to assess for themselves, because I have a funny feeling that something's going to happen with Fauci. It looks like they're going to pin him with something. So we've had that preemptive pardon from Biden, and then we have this kind of pretend tension between himself and Trump, and we know that is just theatre, because Trump is going to go, oh, he was my advisor and I was ill-advised, and shucks, I didn't know. So I put it out to people on social media and I asked, well, if anybody comes by any clips of this interview with Anthony Fauci and Miriam O'Callaghan, please pass it on, because archiving really is one of the most important things any of us can be doing at this moment. Because as we've seen with the primetime interview, things can be memory holed very quickly and they can turn around and say, well, we never said that. Well, where's your proof? That didn't even happen. So what I've been doing for a long time now is cataloguing what has happened. And if any of us can do that, we're definitely helping the cause of truth and justice, and perhaps reconciliation at some point. So Flem on Telegram, I'm very grateful for Flem, because he pointed me in the direction of Eleanor McGee, and she had recorded the interview, the whole lot of it. The only remnant, as far as I can see, and maybe I'm not looking in the right places, but the only remnant of this interview I can find. So anyway, I've put it out there as evidence. It really is evidence, because it is looking like Fauci is going to be the fall guy at some point, and maybe that's why it was scrubbed from the RTE player. Let's see.
How worrying is it that public health was weaponized for political gain?
I'm very concerned about what I refer to as the normalization of untruths, where there's so much lying going on that the general public gets worn out by it and they just accept it. And once you accept the normalization of untruth and don't push back vigorously against it, that erodes the fundamental elements of democracy. Because when you don't have truth, and truth means nothing, that's when you get the kind of insidious erosion of the foundations of the social order. So that really worries me.
And as I was looking back, and I feel it's important that we archive these things, I was looking at Professor John Crown. So he's an oncologist in, is it St. Vincent's? Anyway, there he was. Let me pull this up. I put this stuff on Telegram and I put it on X too. But then you'd think, am I just in an echo chamber? Probably am. But anyway, on the 5th of January 2021, Professor John Crown puts out, can't help but think of all the brave nurses, care assistants, doctors, cleaners, catering staff, and other health workers who went in harm's way, no apostrophe on harm's way, and died of COVID. Really, Professor Crown? Over the last year, before this lifeline was available. Thank you, heroes. The fight back has begun. And we've got 2 exclamation marks there and a shot of Professor John Crown getting his injection. And, cancer is big business. And I do think, this is a guy who's on Irish mainstream media all the time, giving his expertise opinion. And you'd really wonder, why has he not said nothing about the excess deaths since the rollout of these injections? This lifeline, as he puts it, these injections. So we've seen this stark, consistent rise in excess deaths since the rollout of the injections, which I've spoken about clearly. So that was just another thing that I put out there for people to remember who said what. Just remember who said what. Something else I've been looking at are the RTE salaries. And between 2017 and 2019, so we had like Ryan Tubridy in 2019, he was on €495,000. €495,000 for his schlop. Ray Darcy was on €450,000 for 3 years in a row, 2017 to 2019. And then it took a massive drop. So now the poor devil's only on €250,000. So you'd wonder, he didn't quite play along with the COVID scam, not the way Claire Byrne did. Now, he still got his injections, and, even to this day, he's still doing interviews where he's not mentioning that the clot shot is responsible for all these turbo cancers, or could be at least. There's no mention of any of that. So he's still been a good boy, and that's why he's getting paid $250,000. But you'd wonder, is he worth it? Is any of these guys worth it? We have Joe Duffy was on €398,738 in 2017. 2019, he was on 494, yeah. So these guys, this is really mediocre broadcasting we're talking about. Absolutely as mediocre. It's more, well, now, lads, it's like that kind of broadcasting, Oh, sure, Jesus. Oh, sure, we're all just Irish. And I'm just a fella. And I just think, oh, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, now tell me this. It's that kind of journalism. And it's like, well, I'm just like you. You can trust me, and I'm just like you. And, we're all feeling it in the pocket now, aren't we? We're all feeling it in the pocket. And people buy it. They seem to overlook these incredible salaries, and they seem to allow themselves to be brainwashed.
Vaccine. Discuss.
Big news right this week. I'm still beside myself in excitement. So on Monday,
is it real excitement?
It's huge. From what we know at the moment, this looks very, very promising. The news on Monday, press release, a 90% efficacious vaccine.
It's about time the Irish need to start going, well, the reason they're paid these outrageous salaries is because they put out propaganda. That's not in the best interest of the people, all right? It's not in the best interest of the people who are tuning in. So maybe people need to think about that as they're tuning in. I never tell people not to listen because I listen myself. I like to listen, but I'm listening in a different way. And I hope people start listening in a different way and realizing, well, they're getting paid to say that, or the sponsors want them to say that. They're not saying this because they're your pal. No, they're not saying it because they're your pal, because they're not your pal. And people need to understand that. And I think they will eventually. Now, the flag thing's a psyop, all right? The flag thing is a total psyop. It's happening all over Europe. So I pointed this out initially with Andy Quirk's free flags. I said, who's paying for the flags, Andy? And he said he was paying for them. And I'm like, sure you are, Andy. And people said, why are you being mean to Andy? He's one of us. And I'm like, well, it's just a bit, smelly, isn't it? The whole thing kind of stinks a little bit. I don't quite believe it. But you can if you like. I just don't believe he bought all the flags, has earned all these flags and is doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Because one of the horrible things that you start to realize the longer you stay in this is that there are a lot of operations running, right? A lot of operations, and they're here to rile people up and to get people into certain groups so they can infiltrate them, so they can manage them. And I say the flag thing is one of them. So look out for who's pushing the flag thing. And yes, you may feel it is your right to fly the flag. Whatever. Let's just tell the truth. What we need to be focusing on more than anything at this point is exposing those who push the COVID scam. One by one, build a case, be as clear as possible, show the excess deaths and expose them and not put up with it. You can fly your flag if you like, I don't care, but you are making it easier for them to identify you. You are making it easier for them to manage you, infiltrate you and mislead you. If you wish, if that's what you're after, fine, and again, they're tapping into that nationalist sentiment. It's Israeli. It's an Israeli thing that they're doing. So they leave the borders open. They bring everybody in. They get everybody riled up. They give you loads of crimes. They tell you, look what's happening. The world's gone to pot. Tell you to fly your flag. And, people who are going along with it aren't thinking, as far as I'm concerned. And we have to be boxing a bit more clever than that at this stage and looking at it from a broader perspective. And then excess deaths, we're seeing loads of people dropping. some suicides, actually quite a lot of suicides, which makes you think something really bad is happening that we're not discussing, because all the died suddenlies and unexpectedlies, it's all getting mixed and mashed up. So we're seeing suicides mixed in with people who've had clots, and it's all being done on purpose by the mainstream media, who know exactly what they're doing. They're in cover-up mode. They're trying to cover up the excess deaths, and they're trying to pretend that you're a conspiracy theorist or you're crazy if you notice this thing. And then they mix in the suicide. So if you get it wrong, or if you say, well, how did this person die? Or is it related to the injections? They say, how dare you? How dare you? This person, it was a suicide. But we seem to have a major problem with suicide in our country. All this talk of mental health, where has it got us? It looks like suicides are worse than ever. I'd like to see the figures on that now before I go on about that. But Jamie Colburn, now, this isn't suicide. This is a man who worked out I think he's in Perth. Now, he's only 26. He died last month after collapsing while out jogging. So this is very worrying. He's only 26. He was out jogging. And then we've had those 3 24-year-olds who died while they were only in mini marathons or half marathons. 3 24-year-olds. This is not right. And it reminded me of BBC TV presenter Nick Sheridan, who I used to work with in TV3, lovely guy. He was only 32. He was out jogging when he collapsed and died later in hospital. So again, the mainstream media isn't doing its job. So it's pretending this is all normal. It's beginning to normalize all these sudden deaths. And people say, sure, it always happens. Sure, people have always dropped dead. And you have to remind them, well, not at this rate. They didn't always die at this rate. And then they look at you with that floor-dazed stare, as if you said something crazy. And you have to keep reminding them they haven't always died at this rate. Show them the Eurostat excess death figures. These are official EU stats, and say they've never died at this rate. This has never happened before. Something has gone terribly wrong since the rollout of the injections that we need to discuss. So that's it. I just wanted to go through a few of the stories today. Is there anything else there? Oh yeah, the Graham Lenihan thing. Graham Lenihan, the reason he's getting all that publicity, and the Lucy Connolly story, well, we know why. We can see, again, if you spend enough time over here, you get to see the players and who's pushing what. And as much as we can all say, of course he's right about the trans thing, all right? We know this trans thing is absolutely mental. But the reason he's getting this coverage is they want to put Farage in now. So they're ready for the next bit. And again, this is more Israeli meddling in politics. So they pick somebody really, really popular, Graham Lenihan, Father Ted. Who doesn't love Father Ted? And so we can all get behind Graham. And, a girl is a girl and a boy is a boy, and you can't be born in the wrong body and all of this stuff, because it's easy. Mutilating kids, terrible. So Graham is now having his moment. And, in many ways, fair play to him. But we do know Graham Lenihan is a big pusher of Israel, okay? And that seems to be his shtick is also. So we know who's behind him. And we know this is an agenda. A lot of the time, sometimes it's confusing. Sometimes it's very confusing. But I must say, Miri AF has been very, very good on this story. And she's been spotting funny things like accounts on X saying, why don't you look at the Fabian Society? And as I read her article, I went back onto X and somebody was telling me to go look at the Fabian Society. Oh, you're just focused on the Freemasons. Why don't you look at the Fabian? And I thought, isn't that odd? Here we go. So you start detecting trends and patterns, and you start to see the way certain accounts all network and say the same stuff. And then you start to note a pattern. You don't get this with people who are individuals, and people who aren't bought, basically. You don't see that. But you have to keep an eye out for these kind of patterns. And that's not to say the Fabians don't have a role. Of course they have a role. But the thing about all these secret societies is that the higher up you get, they're all connected, as far as I can discern. Now, before I go, I just want to point out Claire Byrne and Luke O'Neill are back at it again. These two are absolutely shameless. They won't stop. They're going to keep going. It doesn't matter how many times we point out the treachery. They're going to keep going until the end. As long as people are tuning in, they're going to keep at it. Claire Byrne's going over to News Talk now to take over from propagandist-in-chief Pat Kenny. So they love what she's doing, obviously, and that's why they pay her the big bucks. Because she looks so sweet and innocent. She looks like the girl next door. And people believed her during the COVID hoax, and that's why they rolled up their sleeves, because they thought, well, Claire's not going to lie to us. She's a sweetie pie. And again, they overlooked her huge salary And they allowed themselves to be deceived too because they weren't asking the right questions. And, it's easy to be deceived by somebody who looks nice and looks sweet. And that's something, we have to learn. We have to learn to wise up. We have to learn not to be so easily duped. But anyway, now they're saying that this climate change, they're blaming climate change for the rise in epilepsy in children. And throughout the conversation, not a mention that the rise in epilepsy might have something to do with the injections. Nothing to do with that. No, it's climate change. And Claire Byrne was also thrilled at the arrival of mosquitoes to Ireland. So now we're being told there's mosquitoes in Ireland. At the same time, Bill Gates is releasing, apparently, genetically modified mosquitoes. And it's just very peculiar that it's the same time he's saying he wants to bring down malaria cases to zero. It's kind of like he's wanting to reduce carbon to zero. We all know how he wants to do that. Oh yeah, and then that ties right back into Anthony Fauci, who said he has the West Nile virus only a few months ago. And you think, are probably going to play a starring role in the next pandemic they're cooking up for us, or whatever they want to call it, the next health crisis. And at the same time, you can't let any of this get you down. I mean, you just have to be wise to it, keep talking about it, keep showing them. That's all you can do. Keep living your life, keep having a good time, by all means. Don't let the bastards grind you down, whatever you do. But it is important that we keep talking about these things. Sometimes I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm like, I'm fed up with this. But it's like, well, so few of us are actually doing it that it's really important that we keep interrupting the programming, because the self-censorship has started. I was talking to a lady today. She's off to the States and she's deleting her social media history because this is something they're checking now on entry to the States. Can you believe that? It was part of some form she had to fill out about her social media history. So she said she's just going to delete it all because she doesn't want any trouble and she just wants to get in. She's going over to see her child who lives over there. So I thought that's incredible. That's where we're at. And the Lucy Connolly thing and the Graham Lenihan thing, that serves towards self-censorship because nobody wants trouble at the airport. Nobody wants to think, oh God, did I post that now? And that's going to get me into trouble when I get to the other side. So the self-censorship starts, the self-editing starts, the cleaning of social media history starts. And that's how it works, it's insidious. Anyway, I'll leave you there. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.